Ladies and gentlemen, it is my pleasure to introduce to you Elana Schulman.
So I think what you probably got out of that introduction was like, wait, her dad owns the Cheesecake Factory? It's Eli's Cheesecake in Chicago. It's better. So thank you so much to Assembly Required for having me. I'm so honored to be here, and a huge round of applause for the other speakers. It's been amazing. Also a round of applause for the rain, because the rain really showed up tonight. So I first have to start off by just apologizing, because this is the first time I've ever kind of spoken in this format. And my vision always, if I did a speech like this, was to enter in on a segue. But I had a really hard time sourcing a segue in Baton Rouge. So I just want to start off with like sort of a visualization, which is, you know, after Franz did that great introduction, these doors swing open, I come in on a segue, I jump off of it, and then just without anyone else's help, it just kind of goes back, the door shut, and I get into the speech. So did you guys do that? Can I start? Okay, cool. I hope I know how to work this. Everyone else was so good with the slides. I was hoping that someone would have a hiccup, but I guess not. So how middle school made me a better producer? Probably your first thought is, how did middle school make anybody better? But it all starts off in Chicago, where I was born and raised, and it started at a school that I went to called Francis Parker. And I went there for 14 years. I was super lucky to go there. It was the kind of school that was all about fostering creativity and having big ideas and learning by doing. So that was kind of where it all started. It's also important to point out that it was the kind of school where, like, if you were a varsity athlete, it was cool to do the High School Musical. And I was the high school mascot, and I still had friends. And in case any of you are like, she's lying, there I am, you know, through Colonel Parker's mustache. That's actually where my eye holes were. So this story I'm going to recount for you took place in middle school. And I don't even exactly remember who it was that said it to me or what classroom it was in, or sort of like any details really, but I remember exactly what they said. And I was talking to a fellow classmate, and they said, you know, Elana, you're really weird. And I remember just feeling like instantly so bad about that. I was like, what makes me so weird? And I kind of took it as an insult, and I was like, is it because like I wear a sweatshirt that says world's greatest dad on it? Or I thought it was funny to like pretend I was a stand-up comic from the 90s and make jokes about people drinking tomato juice on planes. I mean, I don't really know why they thought I was weird, but I'm still trying to figure that out. But why I'm telling you this story is that I kind of had this moment where I sort of had a shift in how I like kind of understood what they were saying. I think they might have meant it in a mean way, but who knows? But the importance is that for me, I realized, you know what, like, I don't think that's an insult. I think it's a good thing to be weird. I think it's a good thing to be different, and I'm okay with that. And I would say that like that moment was like a super important part of my life, because it kind of like set me out on a path where I didn't necessarily feel like a lot of pressures from other people to, you know, be a certain way or go on a certain career path. I kind of just like explored areas of interest and developed skills just based off what I wanted to learn and do. I should have done that one earlier. So the idea is, yeah, these slides really require timing, and I'm not going to get that. But what I learned was, the weirder the skill set you have, the better off in life you are. And for me, I've seen that sort of like, you know, I've seen that manifest in a lot of different ways, but particular for me in my career, I think I've been really lucky to find a job where it totally reflects my personality. And I don't think I would have been able to find that if I didn't feel the freedom to just sort of explore things I was interested in and have this sort of like really weird grab bag of interests. So what I do and why I love it. So I'm the supervising producer of MUNCHIES, which is Vice Media's food channel. So if you go to our website, you can read a ton of different articles about food. You can watch a lot of different videos. We also have a YouTube channel. I think that's probably the easiest way to see the series. But Munchies is all about telling stories about food in a range of ways. It could be, chronicling a night out with Elana Schulman in New Orleans on our tentpole series, Chef's Night Out, or it could be a documentary we just put out about the East Coast Canadian seal hunt. So the range is very broad. We cover a little bit of everything, but always through the lens of food and always with an emphasis on talent or an emphasis on personality and people. And I've always said, like with our food content, it's as much about the people as it is about the food. Here's some people. Another thing that I really love about Munchies is that, we're not trying to filter anything, and we're just trying to show real people doing what they do in food. So I'm gonna show you a clip. I'm really glad it's not raining because it would have been a silent film and it really worked as I had planned.
Here I am. Look at this. This is actually a punch bowl, but I feel like it should be for desserts too, because besides alcohol, what else do you want to do in life? Eat dessert. Why don't I start getting the first layer while that guy cools? This is like the really, really fun part. All that cleaning of this dumb bowl pays off because this part's really fun. Actually, a little lemon on these will make for a really nice juice. A little sugar. See how they're already leaking? It's crazy. And I think our cake is probably cooled by now. My God, it's fine. Holy shit. Oh boy. Oh, I'm sorry. Didn't touch the floor, so it's safe to eat.
So that was a clip from A Dinner Bell, which is a series one of the first series I worked on at Munchies. But I love that clip because we showed the cake drop, and I don't think that many people would have, and that's kind of what we're after. It's showing real moments in kitchens. I mean, like, we always drop stuff, we burn stuff, and we should show it. Food isn't only about like perfection. But the actual first video series I worked on, I remember my bosses, Chris Grosso and Lauren Cinnamon, who are the executive producers of Munchies, brought me into their office and they said, Elana, we want you to do an 8-part Hanukkah special. And I was like, okay, like what should it be? They're kind of like, do whatever you think would be fun. And in my mind, I was like, they don't know me. They don't know my personality or my sense of humor. I don't know their sense of humor. Like, how much can I really do what I would want to see in a Hanukkah special? So clip 2.
Oh, hello, gorgeous. Sorry, I'm having some of my Manischewitz. Welcome and thank you for joining me, Barbara Streisand here all the way in Brooklyn. We are going to be cooking today, that's right, cooking, and we are going to be making some of my wonderful, fabulous Jewish noodle kugel. People who need kugel. So the first step in all of this is you want to get a pot of boiling water ready to go because you're going to put egg noodles inside a rolling pot of water and you're going to put it in there for about 8 to 9 minutes and it should be soft. Happy days are here again. We're setting up this kitchen. So let's have some fun, enjoy the food. Noodle kugels here for you.
Okay. So yes, that was a Barbara Streisand impersonator making kugel in my landlord's kitchen because that was the only location I could find. But I showed you this video because I think it shows 2 things. One, I've been really lucky to find a job where I can be authentically myself. And 2, I wouldn't have been able to do that or the kinds of videos I make if I hadn't have such a diverse range of interests and kind of explored all of them. So I think sort of the most important thing to start kind of thinking about your skill set and how to make it weirder is starting with your mentors. And for me, that started with my grandfather. So that's Elana Schulman. And he's my biggest mentor. And I actually never even got to meet him, but I learned about his story through my parents, through my dad, and also anyone that ever met him because he was just a larger than life character that just captivated everybody. And here's a picture of him dancing with a very large block of cream cheese with legs. But Eli was a people person. He made everybody feel special. It didn't matter who it was. His attention was on you, and he just made you feel like, you know, the best person in the room. And he also cared so much about, you know, hospitality, and he had great restaurants in Chicago and all these different things, and he was a dreamer. The cheesecake that's in front of him, he started making that because he didn't like the desserts he was serving, and so he put it on the menu. And then my dad, who's in the audience, decided, like, he was a practicing lawyer, and he stopped doing that to create the cheesecake business, which is now still, you know, successfully running in Chicago. So mentors are amazing. This is my mentor. Also, I think it's probably clear, it was in the steakhouse and also the cheesecake bakery that I fell in love with food and hospitality. And I've been really lucky to have a lot of mentors, you know, whether it was a high school teacher that taught me, you know, what it means to talk with someone, not at someone, or one of my first bosses in one of my first jobs who didn't care where the idea came from. It could have been the top executive, or it could have been the intern. A good idea is a good idea. Also my parents, my dad, who taught me the most important thing is investing in your community and your people, or my mom, who's in PR and just could get anything done. And as a producer, my biggest thing that I have to do is just be like, yep, I can do that. Or if I can't figure it out, how do I problem solve it? But watching my mom, like, there was never a second where she doubted that she couldn't do it. My favorite example is, as a 5-year-old, I was obsessed with Full House. And you know that she got me to a taping and met John Stamos, okay? I also just really wanted to show this picture. But how do you find mentors? I think that's something that a lot of you are probably thinking. And for me, technology is amazing. It's made it a lot easier to connect people and find people, but it will never replace human connection. So you're not going to find your mentors on LinkedIn. And I actually think this event is such a good example of it. Like, seeing everybody speak, you maybe could have, like, seen their LinkedIn profile, but meeting them in person and actually having the opportunity to talk to people, all of you here that are going to hopefully get coffee together and talk and form relationships, like, that's how you find your mentors, by, like, getting out there. Do as many jobs as you can. I think that's the best way to develop your skill set. And I think sometimes there's a lot of pressure on, like, I want to be on this path and I want to do this job. But, you know, a job's a job. And sometimes you got to do different things that you don't know exactly how they're going to play out, or it might not be the career you dreamed of. But I do think that you will get there at some point, and all of those jobs will contribute to, you know, like, the job you really want to be doing, or just, like, later on in life. I like to look back and think about, you know, like, working in retail in high school. That's, like, when I really learned what good customer service is. And I think that has helped me in my job as a producer. Or, like, the summers I spent at Eli's frosting carrot cakes. Like, I was on the pastry line. It was like I Love Lucy. And I would frost them, and I, like, would pipe them, and then, like, get another one and put it down. They, like, definitely just, like, took mine off and, like, boxed them and probably threw them out. But they told me that they sold them. But, like, at that moment, I didn't realize that, like, over 10 years later, I would be producing food videos, and I would be working with, you know, a pastry chef, and I could ask them the question, like, on camera, what's the best way to, like, fill a pastry bag or a piping bag with frosting? And then they could answer the question, and that would be in the video and help a viewer out. But, like, if I hadn't had that experience frosting cakes, I wouldn't have asked that question. So another thing is just whatever field you're in, I would say just do as many jobs in that particular field. So when it comes to production, you know, I've shot videos, I've edited videos, I've done art direction, props, costumes, I've PA'd, a little bit of everything. And, like, that has made me a much better producer. So I think that all of you guys can probably apply that to whatever career you're in. You know, I'm not an expert editor, but when I sit in an edit and give notes on an edit, I can give more constructive notes to the actual editor just because I have an understanding of what they're doing. But it's an important distinction that I am not an expert in any of those fields. So I might be, you know, trying a lot of different things and learning things and sort of, like, exploring all these fields, but I don't have the mentality that I'm an expert. Because I think that when you have that, you sort of stunt your development, you stop learning and growing. An example I have is I've recently been producing this show on Munchies called The Pizza Show. And, 2 years ago, I ate a lot of pizza, but I didn't know about pizza. I didn't know about the nuances of dough making or the politics of running a pizzeria or, the diversity of styles of pizza, all these different things. 2 years later, I definitely know a lot more, but I'm not an expert. I'm not a pizzaiola, and I'm not a pizzeria owner. And I think that if I had had this mentality like, oh, I know pizza now, that I wouldn't have gotten, like the videos or the interviews that I did with these people. I wouldn't have gotten what I wanted out of them. And I've learned so much. And I think if like at the point, if I had at like the interview number 50 with the pizzaiolo had been like, you know what, I'm not gonna ask him about natural yeast because the last guy I interviewed told me about it, but I am gonna ask because I'm gonna learn something new from him. So I would just say always have an open mind, always ask questions. Don't be the expert, always have that like childlike wonder. And yeah, I would say for all of you in the audience, maybe think about sort of your weird skills and how you can apply them to your career now or maybe something in the future. But I think as you kind of like develop all of these skills, even though they might like on paper make no sense at all, I think you kind of start to carve out a path for yourself. And if you like look at that path on Google Maps, it might look kind of weird. And it might kind of like, mine would probably say, I heart Barbra Streisand. But I think through that, you create a unique path for you that only you are on. And I think through that, you find jobs that work better with you and your personality. And you also, I think, are just a happier, better, more well-rounded person. So thank you so much for having me. And Kenny, I wanted to let you know if these 5 camera angles don't work out for you, my mom is number 6.